If you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, there's a certain kind of scene that hurts more than a loss on the scoreboard. It's the kind of moment that lingers, an image that raises questions far beyond that single game. And that's exactly what unfolded on the sideline during the wildcard matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. Because what we saw wasn't just playoff emotion, it was something heavier, more uncomfortable, more revealing. Still in the first half, with the game very much in reach, cameras caught Nick Sirianni sprinting down the sideline, screaming, visibly out of control. Within seconds, it became clear he wasn't yelling at an official or an opponent. He was shouting at one of his own players, and not just any player. It was A.J. Brown. What followed was one of the most tense scenes of the Eagles' season. Sirianni and Brown face-to-face, shouting at each other in a heated exchange that had to be broken up by the team's head of security, Big Dom DeSandro. Brown, helmet off, continued jawing as more players and staff rushed in to separate the situation. All of it happened after A.J. Brown dropped 2 deep passes thrown by Jalen Hurts. Painful drops in a big game, drops at a critical moment. And all of it unfolded just minutes before halftime, with the Eagles heading into the locker room holding a 13-10 lead. The problem is that the scoreboard was misleading, because something had clearly already broken. The immediate reaction from many was to try to downplay the moment. Playoff emotion, some said. Competitive fire, others argued. But when you look closely, it's obvious this wasn't normal. It wasn't just intensity. It wasn't just accountability. It was exposure. The sideline is sacred territory. It's where leaders are expected to project control, even when they're furious. When a head coach sprints down the sideline screaming at his top wide receiver in front of national cameras during a playoff game, the message sent isn't just one of accountability, it's one of emotional disarray. And that didn't go unnoticed. During the broadcast, Hall of Famer Michael Strahan addressed the incident directly. He said he didn't understand why Sirianni was running down and yelling at A.J. Brown in that moment, and that as a player, he wouldn't have responded well to that kind of approach under those circumstances. That comment matters. Strahan has lived inside championship locker rooms. He knows the difference between firm coaching and public embarrassment. Meanwhile, social media erupted. Some rushed to Sirianni's defense, suggesting he was simply trying to prevent a too many men on the field penalty. NFL Network reporter Mike Garafolo even noted that Sirianni appeared to be telling Brown to get off the field quickly to avoid the infraction. Even if that explanation is accurate, the way it was handled remains the core issue. Playoff football does not forgive emotional loss of control. Not from coaches, not from players. A.J. Brown finished the first half with 3 catches for just 25 yards. In the second half, he vanished. No receptions, no impact. In a game that ended in a 23-19 loss, that absence looms even larger. And this is where the most delicate part of the story begins. History. This wasn't an isolated incident. Nick Sirianni has been involved in unusual sideline confrontations before, including a heated exchange with Zach Ertz after a 2024 regular season game against Washington. A.J. Brown, meanwhile, has a well-documented history of public frustration, cryptic posts, and indirect shots through the media, including moments aimed at his own quarterback. When 2 combustible personalities collide under maximum pressure, this is the risk. After the game, Sirianni attempted to downplay the situation in a sideline interview with Aaron Andrews. He said emotions run high in the playoffs, that everyone would go back to loving each other after the game, and that everything was fine. But the problem is that not many people bought that explanation. The public reaction was harsh. Fans questioned leadership. They questioned maturity. They questioned whether this group is truly aligned internally. Some reactions were extreme, even calling for A.J. Brown to be traded. Others were more measured, but just as concerned about the message such a moment sends to the locker room. Because scenes like that don't happen in isolation. They affect trust. They affect hierarchy. They affect how players view the coaching staff. And most importantly, they shape the internal tone after a painful playoff elimination. It's important to be clear about one thing. No one is saying A.J. Brown doesn't care. If anything, it appears he cares too much. And that's exactly what makes the situation so complicated. Highly competitive players need to be managed carefully. They don't respond well to public confrontation. They don't respond well when accountability turns into spectacle. On the, other side, head coaches must assert authority without losing emotional control. When that balance slips, the line between leadership and chaos becomes dangerously thin. The loss to the 49ers would have been difficult to swallow on its own. But when it's accompanied by a moment like this, the conversation shifts. It's no longer just about scheme, play calling, or execution. It becomes about culture. What kind of culture is this team building? Is it one where conflicts are handled internally, or one where they explode in front of everyone? Is it a culture where leaders stay composed under pressure, or one where pressure exposes cracks? Those questions don't arise randomly, and they don't disappear with a generic post-game quote. The Eagles now enter an off-season filled with major decisions. Evaluations of the coaching staff, evaluations of the roster, evaluations of identity, and that sideline moment will be part of every one of those internal conversations, whether the organization wants it to be or not. Because the playoffs reveal who you are when everything tightens. And for a few moments on that sideline, what we saw was a team fighting itself. Maybe this doesn't define an entire era. Maybe it's just an ugly chapter in a larger story. But ignoring the symbolic weight of that moment would be naive. In a league where every detail is scrutinized, where every gesture becomes a talking point, that confrontation between Nick Sirianni and A.J. Brown wasn't just an argument. It was a warning that something needs to be adjusted, whether it's communication, leadership, or the way frustration is handled in the biggest moments. Because talent, the Eagles have, but talent without emotional control rarely survives January. And when the dust settles, when the cameras turn off, and when the offseason truly begins, that image will still be there, hovering over every major decision. Sometimes a loss hurts more because of what it reveals than because of the final score. And for the Eagles, this may have been exactly one of those moments.